Good morning. Today is the 12th of October 2020. Today is my mommy's birthday. Happy birthday, mommy. Happy birthday, birthday girl. Happy birthday, Nkoskat. And today is the day we go find out about getting married and potentially getting married. So join us on the first day of our official marriage day. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Today is, what's the date, babe?
16th October.
So today is the 16th of October, and Jimmy and I went to the lawyer's office to sign our antenuptial contract. We're almost there. Just tapping you to make him realize that yeah, so we're almost there. I think I once posted on one of my social media that I think in April was supposed to be my lobola negotiation weekend, and we ended up not having it because of COVID. And basically when the borders reopened and things like that, and when Jimmy has come to visit now, he came in September, we started really seriously thinking about sort of our futures. And you know, it's all nice and good when you are engaged, but also like, what's going to happen? Are we actually going to get married? When are we going to get married? So those conversations, like those practical, real life, what are we doing conversations started. And so we've decided to actually get the process of getting married going. And obviously that process is a process that involves family, but also involves the state and lawyers, the legal institutions, the sort of national institutions, and it's also like family and social people. So all of that got going. It was also nice that we were able to do it post sort of like the PhD, even though I am still busy with corrections and things like that. That whole PhD trauma, drama, heaviness, anxiety is now out of the way, and we can really focus on getting our lives together. Now that it's here, we're getting it going. In terms of family and negotiations and that kind of thing, that is a work in progress. But also what we are doing is that we are also working on the legal stuff in terms of deciding the kind of legal marriage that we want. Do you want a community property marriage? Do you want accrual? Do you want accrual with inclusions, accrual without inclusions? So all of that needs to be happen. Again, these kinds of things allow partners to have really serious conversations about the kind of marriage that they want, the kinds of, even, I suppose a lot of people like to plan for the best, but you also have to plan for the worst. The kinds of potentially even divorces that you want to have, because you know, the kinds of battles you want to be having when you are in a divorce. What do you want to be fighting about? What do you not want to be fighting about? Or in terms of death, these are things that people don't want to talk about. We don't want to think about it when we are in the happy times. But I think that it gives you so much security and a lot more peace of mind to actually be able to interact in your relationship with ease, because you're not worried about, okay, if it goes wrong, how are we going to handle it? Because if it goes wrong, you've already handled it. And I think also it's a lot easier to be fair and just to each other when you are still loving each other. When you are now angry at each other, there's that human factor, that human need to want to like hurt the other person, or to get one over the other person, and you know, not be or not be taken advantage of. So we tend to be a lot more stubborn, put up a lot more walls, and just like, you know, and be less compromising and less accessible to like negotiation and things like that. Whereas if you negotiate all of that now, you find that even when you are breaking up, the chances are you might have a little bit more of a easier breakup, of a less emotionally traumatic experience, because not only are you leaving a relationship, but you're not leaving a relationship with really bitter fights in between, if you know what I mean. So it's not necessarily that, you know, oh, we're signing contracts for you know, because we don't believe that we're gonna make it. But I think that you know, it gives you peace of mind for when you are in the relationship. It gives you peace of mind in terms of what are the impacts if, for example, I get what if I get into debt, what if he gets into debt, what if different situations happen. Like if you're watching Jimmy's channel, you know that he's resetting his life. So what impact does that have on us as a family, future family, in our future sort of like management of our lives? These are things that we need to think about. You can't be surprised when life happens. You need to expect life to happen so that when life happens, you have a plan. Fine, you can't plan for everything, but you can try to plan for something. Our investigations, basically the only sort of like legal requirement is that you need to have your antenuptial contract signed before any marriage process happens. So even the traditional marriage, you can't do the lobola stuff before the contract is signed, because then the lobola nullifies the contract. So whatever you do first is the legal binding boundary that's going to determine the kind of marriage that you have legally. So if you do lobola first and then sign the antenuptial contract, then the lobola is going to be the recognized marriage, which is a customary marriage. If you sign at the registers or sign at your minister or whatever, then you're going to be considered in community of property until you have a post-nup what done to change it and amend it. So that's why we started off now signing the antenuptial contract, so that once these other things get going and get resolved, we know that legally it's done. And basically we asked the lawyer, one of the things that we asked the lawyer was that if we sign the contract not knowing how things are going to go, not knowing what delays are going to come up, not knowing what if like they close the borders again, if there's an expiry date on the contract. And the lawyer said no, there isn't an expiry date. It only comes into effect when we get married. So right now the contract is still going to go get registered at the deeds office and all of those kinds of things, but it only comes into effect once we get married. So we've signed the contract now. It's gonna go to East London to another lawyer. I think they're gonna register for us at the deeds office, and then we're gonna get a copy of that. And that also the lawyer said that they're also gonna send us an email just with a letter to notify whoever's going to marry us, whether it's a minister or whether we go to Home Affairs, to say that we have signed an antenuptial contract and that that marriage should be registered under this particular type of marriage. So yeah, so also the antenuptial contract is different from your marriage contract or your marriage license. The marriage license is a separate document. They're not the same document, and you need to get each one sorted separately. One is done with the lawyers and the other one is done with Home Affairs or your minister, depending on who's who in the zoo. So that's what we have tried to do, and it's been really interesting, also relatively easy. The only thing they really wanted was our ID documents. So we googled basically the nearest lawyers to us, and we went, like, that's how we chose them, by how close they were to us. So we went, our first appointment, we went there, they explained the different legal perimeters, and basically they explained community of property, they explained accrual, which is with exclusions or without exclusions. So with accrual basically says that whatever you build in your relationship, you guys get to split it and share it. However, excludes debt. So any debt that I acquire in our marriage will be my debt. Any debt that he acquires in our marriage will be his debt. And that basically any of the things that we acquire during our marriage will be split so that it's split evenly between us. So that's sort of like the basic accrual. With exclusions then means you can say that, okay, we want to say that we will split everything, but we'll split everything excluding, for example, let's say pension funds. No, we don't want to share pension funds. Pension funds should belong to each of us. If each of us have property separately now before we get married, we can say maybe we don't want that property to be included in what gets split. Or you can say you can't split anything until we reach like 2 million assets each, and then we can start dividing everything in between us. So that's with exclusions. And then without exclusions is basically saying that everything will be split combined, and that debt will belong to the individual person. The only thing that I think people are like, you sort of like split 50-50, then what's the difference between that and community of property is that they basically only split the difference that each of you have. So if one is worth $1 million,
can I explain it?
No. So if one is worth $1 million and the other one is worth 500,000, they will say, okay, they will then say, okay, 500,000, 500,000, and then the $1 million that the other person has will be taken and divided into two. So the one will be worth 750,000 and the other one will be worth 750,000. So they only basically split the net difference that you guys own together in assets. They don't split everything up. So like I said, if he's worth $1 million and I'm worth 500,000, they will then say 500,000, 500,000, which leaves us a 500,000 that can be split into two, and then that's it. So that's the difference between that and community of property. Whereas with community of property, they take everything and they say split the house in two, split everything in two. They don't first look at the individual assets and then get them to the same balance, and then split whichever surplus, split whatever surplus there is. So that's basically the difference between that and community of property. So this has been quite a longish kind of video, but thank you so much, Gapsters, for joining me on this video. If you have any other questions in terms of this process, obviously I'll make another video when we start going to Home Affairs and getting that process going. And also I'll also keep you updated in terms of any processes with the uncles and things like that. So watch out for those videos. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Subscribe, guys. Subscribe. Thank you very much for joining me. To the new Gapsters, hey, how you doing? And to the golden oldies, hi, hi, hi. And I will see you on the next video. Bye, Gapsters.